Amitabha Buddha. Hello everyone. So last time we talked about the 6 parameters or 6 perfections of the Bodhisattva. And the last component is the prajna, the wisdom. In Mahayana text, we understand this as a wisdom of Sunyata, of emptiness. If one has realized this wisdom of emptiness, then one becomes enlightened and one realizes the Buddhahood. So what does emptiness mean? What does Sunyata mean? And when we think about the word emptiness, in the sort of Western mindset, we might think it's a negative word because, if someone says, I feel empty inside, I feel bored and all that. But in the Buddhist context, it's just completely different. There is nothing negative about this word. It's probably one of the most important words in the Buddhist teaching. So after Buddha became enlightened, he spread Dharma for 45 years, or according to the Chinese Buddhist canon, it's 49 years. And throughout this time, for 22 years of his life, he dedicated in delivering the sutras of the Prajna Paramita series. So there are actually many sutras that contain in the Prajna Paramitas, but two of the most famous ones that some of us might be familiar with are the Heart Sutra and the Diamond Sutra. And these Prajna Paramita sutras all talk about the idea of emptiness, of Sunyata. So what does it mean? In the Diamond Sutra, Buddha was even saying all phenomena, all things are emptiness, and also including Dharma. So why is Dharma also emptiness? So Buddha is saying all his teachings are also emptiness. And how can we understand that all things are actually emptiness? So emptiness doesn't mean that there is nothing, because in the Heart Sutra we see that the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara told us form is emptiness, emptiness is the form. So form and emptiness, they actually go together. So emptiness doesn't mean that there is nothing, but emptiness is just the true nature of all existence, of all things. So if one has realized this wisdom of emptiness, it means that one is able to perceive reality as it is. One is able to transcend all duality, whether it's right or wrong. Now we're living in a world of duality. We're constantly judging things from our own perspectives, and we sort of really insist on our views are right and their views are wrong, so that is why it creates sufferings on us. But for someone who actually realized all phenomena are emptiness of intrinsic existence, then one would be able to free from all suffering, all attachment, and all separation, and one is able to realize Buddha nature. So a simple way I like to illustrate this idea of emptiness is that if all things are empty of intrinsic existence, then this glass of water is also empty of intrinsic existence. And how should we understand this? So this glass has half glass of water. So for someone who sees this glass, she might say this glass is half empty. And the other person who sees this glass may say this glass is actually half full. So you might have heard of this story of half empty and half full of glass. So you can't say any of them is wrong because they are all right from their own perspectives. But the true nature of this glass of water is just as it is. But we can give it all kinds of interpretation and perceptions as we like. But the essence of the glass is just as it is. If we say someone has realized emptiness, we can probably understand it as someone could perceive reality just as it is. The truths are just as it is. There is no absolute right and wrong. So the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. What is beautiful to someone may be completely ugly to the other person, but the nature of that thing or that object is just as it is. But why we have not realized this emptiness? Because we are not empty in ourselves. We are very much controlled by our 6 senses. So in Buddhism, we talk about the 6 senses. When our eye sees the object, when our ear hears the sound, when our nose sense and odors, when our tongue tastes some taste, and when our body touches something, and when our mind interact with all the sense objects, immediately it creates all kinds of feelings, sensations, likes and dislikes, attachments, separation. We are not free from all this. And we are not free from our desire, we are not free from our ignorance, we are not free from our greed, we are not free from our hatred, we are not free from our emotions, feelings, sensations. And that is why all this create obstacles, barriers for us to see reality as it is, to perceive all phenomena as they are. If we just perceive whatever as it is, including our emotions and just everything, as it is, then we will not be suffered anymore. Not only that we will not be suffered, we will also not be separated. There will not be any duality. And you may ask, is the Pure Land also emptiness of intrinsic existence? Yes, but who can say that? Only the Buddhas can say that. To the Buddhas, there is probably no difference because they have realized the emptiness of all things. But even very high level of bodhisattvas, they will still aspire to seek rebirth to the Pure Land, as we have seen in the Avatar Sankhya Sutra, and what says about us ordinary beings. We are not empty, although we know this idea in theory, and I'm here to talk about Sunyata and emptiness, but of course we are not empty ourselves. Whenever we see something, immediately our sort of judgment, our separation, our attachment will come in. If we see something that's beautiful, lovely, and then we like to obtain it, if we taste some food that is so delicious, we love to eat more. So we are not empty. But once we obtain rebirth to the Pure Land, we will be able to realize this state of wisdom, prajna, very soon. Also, Buddha says during the Dharma decline age, that is where we are now, it's very, very difficult for people to realize this state of wisdom, to perceive reality just as it is, because we are so much controlled by our six senses, our six doors. We are almost like slaves to our six senses, to our six doors. So it's extremely difficult for us to actually perceive reality as it is. And also why Buddha says all Dharma is emptiness, because if we look at the way Buddha teach, he could say many different things, and he could use many different words to mean the same thing, like the Buddha nature, the non-self nature, or even the self nature. Also, he can speak nothing. So in the famous flower sermon where the Buddha gave a wordless speech, he spoke nothing and just held a lotus flower and smiled gently. So that was also emptiness. That was what Buddha wants to transmit to us, is the truth is just as it is, the suchness of the truth. The Buddha could say nothing at all, or he could deliver so many words, so many volumes like the Avatar Sankhya Sutra. But all this, they are not away from the truth of suchness, of emptiness as it is. Because each of us is unique and individual, so what works for you may not work well for me, and vice versa. That's why Buddha gives so many different methods of teaching and different paths. All words used by the Buddha are mere convenience to help us arrive to the other shore, from the shore of suffering to the shore of liberation. So may you be happy and free from suffering. Namo Amitabha Buddha.